My name is Daria, and I'm a senior accounts manager in V-Trust Inspection Company. I'm from Russia myself, and I've been living in China for now over 6 years. I can speak English, I can speak Chinese, a little bit of Spanish, and certainly Russian, which is my native language. As I mentioned, we might have already met with some of you during Canton Fair or during some other fairs which we usually take part in. Very happy to see you today. Hope that today's webinar will give you maybe some more insights, for example, on the contract conditions and on the verifying a supplier, verifying a factory. You might have heard, or you might even have encountered the cases of failed shipments. Sometimes the shipment is not failed, however, you would consider that as a failed shipment because incorrect products arrived. Yeah, so you actually open the container. So sometimes there are problems with boxes, with cartons. Sometimes you start actually selling the products. And it's good if you detect those problems with the products in your country, back in your country. It's much worse when the products, for example, they are shipped directly to your customers, to retail stores, and the products are detected already there. So that would be really a problem which you will have to deal with, also regarding, of course, deterioration of your reputation and deterioration of the current connections and relationships with your customers. And of course, another risk is fraud suppliers and hacked payments. So this is also a very, very big concern when you start importing from China, when you start dealing with Chinese manufacturers, Chinese factories. Actually here, for the factories concern, there are two risks. The first risk would be the supplier would go fake. The supplier would go fraud. So this is the biggest concern probably our clients have, and sometimes the newcomers to this trading industry have, because definitely no one wants to be just to lose the first payment. And this is a very big concern. And the second problem here is that the supplier might actually subcontract, might outsource the production to some other factories, which you might not be aware of. And in that case, you actually have, of course, much lower level of quality when the products arrive to your country. So these two risks, they might be eliminated, they can be eliminated. And the service of factory audit, for example, of our company can definitely help you with that, or any other third-party organization, third-party inspection company. Also, you might consider visit the supplier yourself. For example, after the Canton Fair, usually our clients, they just go for a actually ride among the factories which they have pre-selected. To visit the supplier themselves, to look through their certificates, look through their business license, also their production capacities, business premises, and so on and so forth. If you're actually interested in these checkpoints on what to pay attention to when you visit a supplier yourselves, you're also very welcome to come to us, to write an email to us, and we will also consult you on these points, which actually need to be taken into consideration when you go for a factory check yourself. But today, let's focus on these problems which you want to avoid, which you want to eliminate when trading with a factory, when dealing with Chinese suppliers. So I will just keep very silent here so that you can read through, take a very brief look at the email which we received not so long ago this year. So this is one of our one of the persons we met during Canton Fair, and unfortunately, you can see the story, you can see the situation. These stories, unfortunately, they take place in China. They take place actually in trading not only with China, but also with other countries in Asia. That's why, in order to eliminate the risk of encountering such a situation, definitely you need to take into account many points, like I have just mentioned: verifying the factory before you make the first payment. Also visiting the factory, this is the best option, of course. Or at least conducting, for example, a credit audit on the factory. Regarding credit audit, you can also get back to us. You can email to us and we'll consult you on which points are verified when you deal with the factory before you make the first payment. So That's why today our very brief outline what we will be discussing during this webinar. First, contact with the supplier. What needs to be taken into consideration when you outline the agreement with them? What needs to be taken into consideration when you actually check the supplier, sometimes without going to China, sometimes without visiting the actual factory. And tomorrow we'll cover the briefly most common payment methods, how to ensure safety of your payment, what to again indicate in the agreement in order to be safe regarding further concerns which might arise when you deal with payments. So this slide, it's very just brief chain which you follow when you deal with the factory. Start with the contact with the supplier, and this is just a corpus, of how you deal with the supplier, which steps you follow. So as you can see here, you make the inquiry. You make the inquiry to a factory which you have preselected, for example, using some sourcing platforms, or sometimes visiting a fair, visiting a trade show. At this step, what's important to take into consideration, at this step? Very important is to make the right request for quotation. If you would like us, we can. If you would like that, we can also show you how this request for a quotation looks like. Which points you need to take into account here as well. Price, quality, their internal quality assurance system, how far they are from the port, which Incoterms their prices are based on. So many things to take into consideration here. Of course, almost everyone knows that the most common way to trade with the factory and to indicate the price is FOB, free on board, when the supplier takes care of delivery to the nearest port. For example, most of the prices actually here are either FOB Shenzhen or FOB Shanghai, so the FOB price and the closest port to that factory, to their manufacturing capacities, to the production. And but sometimes you can also see that actually the prices vary so much. And what's the reason for that? Why some factories can actually indicate very attractive prices, but then you can find out actually that's just a kind of bait and switch approach, when the factory actually just tries to attract you with lower pricing, which are sometimes X works, which sometimes only include the production without any further concern of the customs clearance, for example, without any further concern on delivery, and so on and so forth. So you might be really in trouble when you deal with XW terms, So then what you do is that you request for a sample, for example, to be sent back to your country, or sometimes our clients can also test those samples in China. This is usually a very cost-effective way because you might definitely save time and costs. Definitely you're saving time, already, because the samples are not delivered to your country and then they are flying back to China, and so on and so forth. And also you're using just third-party labs in China, again, accredited laboratories in China. And basically you save costs also on that, because third-party accredited labs in China are very, in most of the cases, cheaper than back in your country, back for example in Europe or back in the US, and so on and so forth. And besides, also, by the way, in VTrust, we also have this service of testing your samples. So we can sometimes receive samples even from different suppliers, consolidate them here in our office or in our laboratory, and then make the same basically tests for the specification of those samples, of those products, and then compare those samples, and also with help of our technical engineers, make recommendations which of these, for example, 3, 4, 5 samples was the best for you to further on take the decision on your further communication process, or on your further cooperation with a particular factory, with a certain supplier. Then you are signing the agreement, again, terms of agreement. If you would like us to consult you on those terms, what needs to be indicated in the agreement, what needs to be included into the important terms which our clients, for example, work on, you're also very welcome to get back to us, and we'll consult you more on that. Then you pay the first, you make the first payment, then production starts, then you pay the balance, Then delivery happens, again, as I mentioned, to the closest port from the manufacturer. And then you consider further cooperation based on results of your first shipment. Again, here, the most important advice, start if you are a starter. Yeah, if you are a newcomer to this trading business with China, start very, very little. Start as small as possible. Especially if it's a new product, especially if you, again, haven't dealt with the supplier, you haven't heard of them, you haven't had any recommendation on how they work. So if it's not an off-shelf product, yes, so-called an off-shelf product, when they actually have a very huge experience on this, on manufacturing this particular product, start as small as possible if you can afford that, of course. Okay, we go further because, yeah, definitely we can also consult you more on each step of this chain. Yeah, but again, with the time limit, you are very welcome to get back to us, and we will do that via emails. Here, what you need to take into account again when getting in contact with the factory. So consult with the factory about their location. Also quite important, because that would also identify actually it will identify many things, including the pricing, because in China, just geographically, yeah, there are so many areas where, for example, only one category of products would be produced. So it's also very, very important. If you deal with the factory which, for example, produces let's say, which produces, which produces, for example, furniture, yeah? But they produce that in the very, very northern province of China. What does it tell you? It tells you that this is not a manufacturer first. It tells you that this is probably a trading company which actually buys furniture somewhere around Shanghai area, which is quite famous for producing furniture, yeah. Buzhou, let's say, yeah, also, yeah, Zhejiang province in general. So this will tell you that you're not dealing probably with the manufacturer, or this factory might be producing some accessories, I don't know, small parts, or just even fabrics, for example, and the rest of the production, the rest of the rest of accessories, the rest of materials, they're actually subcontracting, and you don't want to deal with that because of many things, because of pricing, because of IP rights, because of lost communication with the producer, yeah, not with the middleman. So there are many things to take care of. Discounts. Possible discounts, yeah, for your order, for the amount, for payment terms, because sometimes if you actually agree on those, on their payment terms, on the payment terms of the factory, you might be actually expecting a discount. This is always, well, actually, there are many Chinese manufacturers, actually most of them, majority of them, who would be very interested in win-and-win situation, yeah, win-and-win policy. That's why definitely you can also kind of leverage that on future discounts, which you might actually gain from this cooperation. If you compromise on something, expect factory to compromise on something too. So, and you can actually be quite persistent regarding this point. Yeah, warranty. If you don't indicate that, don't expect that. Indicate it in the PO, indicate it in the agreement, indicate it very, very thoroughly. And by the way, another tip which we would like to give you is that communicate with the factory. Don't expect that they will understand you just by writing emails to each other, yeah, by just ping-ponging these messages and just getting some standard, sometimes templates, yeah, from a manufacturer. Make sure that they understand everything what you try to convey to them, yeah, they understand everything what you're trying to agree on. If you're not in China, if you don't have a chance to actually make a very good relationship with the factory, which is the best, try at least to set some Skype meetings with the factory and go through the agreement, go through the warranties, very important, yeah. Go through the, again, defect tolerance as it's indicated on the slide. Go through their Q&A system, right? So go through all important points which are considered to be quite crucial for you, yeah. Go through all those points together with them. Make sure that they understand you. Sometimes it's very handy for you to speak Chinese so that you can actually really gain the understanding that they they are aware of all the points of concern. This is the only way sometimes how to actually get the results from the supplier which you want to expect and which are sometimes indicated in your agreement but overlooked. Request documents, certificates, licenses, very important point. Factories should provide you with these documents. I will mention a bit later which documents they are. Certificates on their products and licenses at your first request. So if it takes 2 weeks for a factory or, potential factory or your supplier to get back with these documents, with certificates for their products, with licenses, it's already a bad sign. It means that they are probably gaining these documents from their subcontractors or with the factory they are dealing with because they are a trading company, for example, and so on and so forth. So make sure that these documents arrive arrive to you as early as possible. Which documents I'm talking about? Documents like, for example, the export license. If a supplier lacks this document, what does it mean? It means that they will be dealing with another company which will be doing export services for them, which will be actually providing them the services with exporting their products because they are not able to do that themselves. What does it mean for you? For you, it means that, of course, increasing the price. Of course, sometimes dealing with two parties, which you also want to avoid. So a factory potential supplier, your potential supplier must obtain all the documents which you need them to. If you would like to understand which documents you expect from the manufacturer, it's better if you also consult with us, for example, and we'll tell you which exact documents you would like to gain from a particular supplier, because export license, trading business license, export license, the certificates for those for their particular products, which are also different. There are many other documents which you would like to receive from the manufacturer. Here, if you are based in the Netherlands, if you are based in London, you don't want to fly all the way to take 15 hours, 13 hours to come to China, to spend, there is also an article which we have in our blog, to spend 1 week in China without speaking any Chinese, without knowing how to deal with suppliers, without being able to eat Chinese food, without being able to use chopsticks and so on and so forth, or deal with taxi drivers. You don't want that. First option is to use third-party services or factory audits. Again, here you're saving costs and really a lot of time. Because we go through all the important points, all the important issues to take into consideration when we go to a factory and we conduct the audit. What do we check? We check their business premises. We check all the documents which a factory needs to obtain. Sometimes our buyers, they don't even know about those documents, right? And we, by the way, check them in Chinese, and then we give you the translation, the translated version of those documents. What do we check else? We check, for example, their establishment capital, when they were registered, who the owner is, what's their ownership structure, what's the organization structure, their payroll system, their quality assurance system, their incoming materials, where they are coming from, how their quality assurance, how quality control is arranged at this stage, and so on and so forth. So there are many things which are taken into consideration here, but if you do not want to use any third-party inspection company services, you can also very easily get at least a brief understanding where your factory is located and if it would be a factory itself at all. So the very easiest way, and of course the most superficial way, but still it's sometimes workable, at least it's the first step towards kind of the correct way of doing business with a factory, is that to check where they're located. Google their location, just enter your factory's name, and then Google will show you where they are located. If you see that a furniture factory or a jewelry factory is located in the area, in the downtown of Guangzhou, for example, Arshadao here. Arshadao is famous for having many famous sites in Guangzhou, like for example Opera House. Yeah, actually it's Judian area. I'm not talking only about Arshadao, yeah, about this island, but about the Judian area. So libraries, opera houses, and so on and so forth are located in this area, in the downtown. Why would the factory be located there? Of course, this is a very, very exaggerated example, yeah, you might think. But still, if there are areas in Guangzhou, you can also Google that, by the way, and see which areas which areas are famous for what, yeah, which areas are well known for what. Usually, just speaking in general, usually, of course, factories would be located in the suburbs of Guangzhou. Sometimes also in some towns, yeah, close to Guangzhou. I wouldn't call them towns, but still, like, for example, Shunde, like Foshan, like Dongguan, you might have heard about those cities as well. But even sometimes, actually, Panyu also, yeah, an area of Guangzhou, a district of Guangzhou, which is considered to be a district, but it's already slowly growing into another city, I would say, nearby Guangzhou. But still, so those suburbs, those towns might have a real manufacturer, yeah, might actually host a real manufacturer, rather than that company would be based somewhere inside of the kind of delineated area of a city, yeah, so inside of the city, basically. So also pay attention to that. Very easy tool, again, is to just see which buildings are around this factory, yeah. So you can see, because as I mentioned, in China, there are many clusters. There are many districts which are famous for only manufacturing one certain direction of a product. So, for example, Panyu, yeah, quite famous for jewelry production, or Shunde, quite famous for furniture production, or again Foshan in close to Guangzhou, where we are based. So it's also quite famous for furniture. So there are some districts which would host factories of only one category, of only one product category. So this can also be a sign if your factory is located very far away from the rest of the suppliers, from the rest of the factories of this category. That might also be a sign. Another very easy tool, walk around the streets, yeah, see which, again, buildings are located nearby, which buildings you can observe from being this tiny little figure, tiny little figurine, yeah, and so basically you can also see the buildings, yeah, the manufacturers nearby, and make a conclusion, yeah, about the nature of your manufacturer, the nature of your supplier. So we are slowly moving to another step. Yeah, so you have checked the factory. You at least just reviewed, yeah, their location, reviewed their documents. Another very important tip and another very important point is that you would need to make sure you are in contact with the right person, because dealing with a good supply is one thing. Dealing with the right contact person is another thing, which is actually the importance of this thing is not lower than the importance of dealing with a good manufacturer. So just get to know, yeah, who your main contact is. The position of this contact, yeah, of this main contact, because sometimes position of this main contact would be a translator working for this factory, yeah. So you do not want to actually establish a relationship, establish the contact, communication with a translator who temporarily work for this factory, yeah, for this manufacturer. So make sure that you are dealing with the right person, who is either an account manager, or sometimes even the senior account manager, for example, or in a higher position, or yeah, an engineer would also be sometimes responsible for some orders. So make sure you know the position of the main contact person you deal with. And again, make sure that, is this your main contact, or maybe there will be some backup persons in the factory in case, for example, of urgent situations, and there will be urgent situations all the time. So make sure that you have a backup for that main contact. Discuss all terms of cooperation and outline that in the agreement. Again, we've already actually touched it a little bit. So outline that in the agreement. This is one thing. Another thing, make sure that factory understands what you have outlined. Yeah, factory understands what those conditions are. And here is the nice nice thumb, yeah, with some ways of communication with your main contact. Very, very important step. Don't overlook that. Don't think that it's just a maybe a thing which can be which wouldn't be mandatory, yeah, which would be quite optional, but actually getting a phone number, LinkedIn account, Skype account, WhatsApp or WeChat, email address is very important, just in case of urgent situations, which will definitely happen. Okay, we are moving slowly further, yeah, because of our promised 20 minutes, which we're already kind of surpassing a bit. Include the term of quality control into the agreement. Again, a very, very important term, sorry, a very important point. We can also show you how this term of quality control can look like. Yeah, this is the slide, which shows you which shows you this condition. This term our clients usually indicate in the agreement. You can take a picture of that if you like, or you can again email us and we'll consult you more about this term, yeah, about what should be included into the agreement with your factory, because this is very important. It motivates, definitely motivates the supplier to follow your predefined conditions, yeah, to follow your predefined terms from the very beginning. I mean, the terms on quality, the terms on I don't know, packaging or labeling or functioning, the functionality of the product, and so on and so forth. Many points to consider. And again, specify payment methods and conditions. We will be reviewing that tomorrow in our second part. Specify what you can do if you encounter problems. So as the saying goes in China, pray for the best, plan for the worst, yeah? So definitely you need to have a very clear plan, and preferably this plan should be also agreed with your manufacturer. What you're doing if you encounter problems, because you might encounter problems in most of the cases, to be honest, because of course those problems vary. They are not so major. Sometimes they're really minor problems, but still outline that in the agreement, or at least make sure that your manufacturer, your factory, your supplier understands about the corrective action plan, about, again, your action plan, which you are going to implement when you encounter problems. Here, the agreement term, which we have already showed you. So for today, thank you very much for attending the webinar. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.